hello, welcome back. This is episode 7 of the Full Metal Beavers podcast. I'm Dr. French, and today I have Masrur Chowdhury joining me remotely for an interview. Say hello, Masrur.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. So, Masrur, you are a graduating senior. You're going to be leaving high school rather shortly. And you're also the director of the competition department on the Full Metal Beavers. Can you just talk about a little bit about yourself? Like, what are your plans, where you're going, that type of stuff?
So basically, I'm going to Middlebury College in Vermont, and I'm going to be majoring in physics, and then eventually going into engineering. Yeah.
And what made you choose that school?
So basically, it was one of the best in physics. So, and out of all the schools that I got into, it was just the best one, because I applied to a lot of schools, and that was just the best one out of all the picks.
And what made you choose physics? Like, do you see yourself being a physicist, a scientist?
Yeah, so I was always interested in physics and how the world works around me. So when I chose physics, I already knew it was an interest of mine. And also most kids who go into engineering and from Middlebury, they usually go through the physics major.
Mm-hmm.
That's the major that they choose to go into engineering, whether it be a dual joint program or even just graduating.
And you plan on doing I forgot what you call it, but there's a partner college with Middlebury.
Yeah, so basically there's a dual joint. It's called a dual joint. And sophomore year, you could either go to Dartmouth or Columbia, I believe, if you have a certain GPA and also certain classes. And then junior year, there's another opportunity for RPI in Columbia, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just another way going to engineering. And then for your senior year, if you don't go through those paths, you could just go into for grad school.
Cool. And you plan on pursuing that path, right?
Yeah.
Cool. And then eventually do what? What did you? We have this conversation a lot.
Yeah.
But just for the listeners, but what do you plan on doing after that?
So what I plan on doing after that is getting experience with engineering and aerospace engineering, because I want to be an astronaut. But also a backup thing that I have is being a pilot as well, because I'm into that aeronautical engineering aspect.
Cool.
Career.
Cool. Have you ever been in an airplane?
Yeah, I did when I went to Bangladesh.
And what was that? You like flying?
Yeah, I really it's so intriguing to me how just navigation and everything like that, how we travel. That's why I like biking a lot, because I just like traveling. So that's why one of my biggest interests are just going being a trooper, you know what I mean? A space trooper. That's the major. That's my biggest goal. But airplanes and just automobile things are really cool to me. So that's why I'm so intrigued by driving or biking and so on.
Have you ever been on other types of transportation, like boats?
Yeah, I went on boats for the ferry, because you know how New York City it's connected to LIC Piers, and then there's this boat ferry thing to get around from LIC Piers to Manhattan, and they're different stops, so I went on those.
Yeah, there's even a ferry that goes from New York to Connecticut, and there's one also that goes from Brooklyn to what is it, Staten Island or Manhattan,
Mm-hmm.
the lower part of Manhattan to Staten Island. That's pretty cool. Have there been any places that you've traveled to outside of the United States besides Bangladesh?
Yeah, so I remember for my transfer flight, I went to Dubai, and also I went to Scotland and England for this study abroad program that I did last year.
And talk about that. What was that like?
All right. So basically, I was very interested, like, and I still am interested in just like exploring like what it means to be like a Muslim. And um, at that time, I was looking into like programs that like explores like being Muslim in a first world country and how it like how do you practice it, things like that, and also like maintaining peace because there's like a lot of stigma around like Muslims and like how they're terrorists. So I really want to like understand like uh just like that whole idea of being Muslim. So I applied to this program that was organized by MCN and Rose Castle. So MCN is the Muslim Community Network. So it's basically connects like a whole bunch of Muslims in New York City, and just talks about like how it is growing up in New York City and how it is like to be a Muslim and the things like just teaches you and educates you about what we should do and what our role to play in this country.
Did you this travel abroad program, was it with other Muslims?
Yeah, there were other Muslims and Christians as well.
Uh-huh.
So it was like a peacemaking. It's basically called the Emerging Peacemakers, and essentially what we talked about is like what can we do to like stray away from like all um these stereotypes among like Muslims and like the tension between like different religions and how we could like create a world where like um all religions could just like live peacefully, whether you even follow religion or not.
Yeah. Do you the other participants, the other young people with you, did they all look like you?
No. So I was like, what? There was only one other Bengali. So there was Bengali. There was Pakistani people. There was also like um I don't know where from Africa, but like there were some African people and also like black people like living here,
Mm-hmm.
and also some like European people, uh, and like white people. There was just a bunch of people from all
That's
over the world.
and they're both like boys and girls.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's cool. What's the name of that program again?
So it's called MCN, Emerging Peacemakers Program.
Cool. So if anyone like listening might know someone who might be interested in that, they could
Yeah.
just like Google that and or go to the
Yeah,
website.
because basically I'm like an alumni of their program. So each year their plan is to like have like each year or each other year. So they're planning on to like have the same course again, but like as me as like an alumni, they're gonna give me the option if I want to be also like a teacher. So like not a teacher, but like a mentor
That
there
sounds
as well.
cool.
Yeah. So I was like the first cohort. I was like part of the first cohort to like.
Oh, so you're like a pioneer.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, trendsetter. Um,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool, Mazur. Just on that religion note, you had mentioned
Yeah.
that was a mission for peacemaking between Muslims and Christians, and just everyone being a different representation of what a Muslim is, what a Christian is, them looking different, and then you guys were having conversations and activities to kind of understand each other, right?
Yeah.
So, what do you think is wrong with people's understanding of religions or the differences with religion? Like, why do people have such strong? Why do some people have such strong negative
Mhm.
thoughts about Muslims or Christians or religion?
Okay. So personally, I think like the whole like problem doesn't come from the religion itself, because if you look into like the religions of Christianity or Islam or Judaism or Hinduism or Buddhism, like none of these like none of these religions promote violence. You know, it only comes with like I would say like kind of like the culture and also um just like the stubbornness of the people who like followed it for like so many years. So I know that there's this thing called like Sharia law. That is like something like a certain group of like Muslims like follow, and it's like not necessarily like connected to like Islam, but it's and not everyone follows that. It's just like a certain group, and like from that, like a lot of people think like, oh, uh from this, like, look at these Muslims, look at what they follow, but that's not how it is, you know? Like, the religion itself isn't the problem. It's just like people being like stubborn and like not wanting to like learn. It's like their ignorance makes violence.
Hmm. You your birthday is in July, right?
Yeah, July 15th.
Oh, that's probably when this this episode is releasing. So happy birthday
Yeah.
from the future.
Okay,
Um,
thank you.
uh, you being almost 18, you being
Yeah.
from like Bangladeshi descent, you being like living in the United States, uh, you're educated, and you're also a Muslim, right? You rep that, correct?
Yeah.
So, how do you see yourself kind of like fitting in? Because there's a lot of thoughts and stereotypes that people have, like you've admitted, um, with Muslims. How do you fit into that? And like, what's your connection with Islam?
So my connection with Islam is like, it's kind of complicated for me because growing like up in like a household that's like always like pressuring to for me to be like Islamic, and like also seeing like things you wouldn't like typically see as like hypocritical, like, oh, you have to be peaceful, but like uh it's not always like that at home. So that's just like a little like confusion that I had like growing up and being a Muslim. And I would say like my part in Islam is like I'm still learning, you know? Like I'm not like the perfect Muslim, but I'm like still trying to learn and trying to find like the meaning of like life or something, or like unlocking the universe, like you say, French.
Oh, okay. And you believe that Islam or any religion is like a pathway to unlocking the universe.
Yeah, I really do.
Okay. What you have siblings? You have an older sister, and then you have a younger sister and brother. Uh,
Yeah.
what's your role via religion, like with them? Like, do you
Hmm.
how do you
So
are you promoting like them to be good Muslims too, or what?
So basically, for my little siblings and my older sibling, I basically just tell them to just to learn like what the teachings is, and then like seeing like if they like follow that, or like actually like understand that, because they're always telling me to like, oh, you should pray, oh, you should do this. And I was like, do you know, even like you're reading Arabic, but do you know what it means? And then like I tell them to like I tell them to like search up some things. And my little sister is actually like, she goes to Islamic school. Just she knows a lot, and she even teaches me some things because like I never went to like Islamic school. But my connection like with them and being Muslim is just like all the good things, to be honest. Like being like respectful, like that's kind of like in that's like a whole like worldwide thing. But I feel like if it's like through religion, if they're learning it through religion, that's also like a really good ups, because like I could say like, oh, you think like talking behind someone's back. I know in the like in the Quran it says like backbiting is like forbidden. And when I hear like, you know, kids, they like
Backbiting?
always, yeah, that's called like talking behind someone's back.
Oh, okay. Thought it was something
Yeah.
else.
No, no. We're talking about religion. All
Okay.
right. All right. So yeah. So sometimes like I use that to like help them like go on the good path. Like doesn't matter like how you go on the good path, whether it's like religion or anything, education. It's just like as long as you're on that path. So I know that like talking behind someone's back, that's like not right, and that like leads to like bad habits, especially like in the Bengali like community and like the culture. There's like a lot of that. So um just like telling them to just like not do that like through religion is just like another like benefit in how I connect with them religiously.
Yeah. You had mentioned that there's some hypocrisy within some religious communities where they would say one thing but then do another thing. And you said you
Yeah.
see that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to pivot to robotics, but just something very interesting about this. Like we spent some time talking about Islam and religion, and you don't usually like when I interact with you or talk to you, and I don't know if other people can do this too. They can testify to this, but you don't like fall into that category of like a quote unquote Muslim, you know, like
Hmm.
just outwardly, like you don't wear a certain like dress, and you
Yeah.
don't speak a certain way that indicates like you're super religious. I also almost never see you pray. That's something, you know,
Yeah.
so but that's another thing. I guess people are just multifaceted. That's something to remind yourself as well, and even your siblings, especially when
Yeah.
you go off to college, that you're not just Muslim. You know, you're all those other things. I mentioned that you're Bengali. You're 18 at the time of this release of this podcast. You're like educated, and you're going to be an astronaut. You know, so you're
Hmm.
more than just your religion. That's kind of cool to
Yeah.
think about. Okay, so I want to ask you about your history on the robotics team, right? Full Metal Beavers. So you joined as a 10th grader, right?
Yeah.
And so this is your third year. You'd be you're on the team for 3 years, give or take
Uh
some
huh.
time. Can you talk about your journey? Let's hear it from the beginning. Like, let's go
All
through
right.
your process.
From like what in the beginning of robotics or like my high school?
In the beginning of robotics.
Okay, so when I joined robotics in sophomore year, I was just thinking to myself, let me just join this because my friends are joining. You know, it's like something that'll like keep me occupied, and also like I still had like big dreams at that time as well, and I knew that like robotics was gonna help me there. But I also was like that lazy type, and I didn't want to put in the work to like be there. You know, I just want to put. I was like that kid that was like, oh, um, if this is on my record, I am going to be successful. But I didn't think about like all the hard work that was needed for you to be a successful beaver. You know, I was kind of like an unsuccessful beaver in the beginning. I was
Mhm.
like a bum. I was a beaver bum in the beginning. So yeah, yeah, I didn't know anything. Like I didn't know like what an agenda was. Nothing like things that aren't really like taught in classes are taught in robotics. So I was just like, this is like too much. Like I never learned this. Why should I do this? So yeah, that was just like the beginning. But like transforming into like a junior, I started getting like a little bit more motivation because I like hung around with like more robotics members. I stayed like I think I got kicked off as well
Mhm.
sophomore year, right?
Yeah.
So so I think I wait, how did I join back? Or did I
Um,
reapply? Or
I broke the rules and let you back on the team without an application,
oh
right?
wait, so I didn't get kicked off sophomore year, right? I just went from sophomore year to junior year.
No, you got kicked off sophomore year, and
Oh,
then
so
and then I brought you back on junior year. Remember, as an apprentice.
oh yes, yes, yes. So as an apprentice, I was just like really confused what the role meant. So I just felt like I had like some like I had more like what do I say like more say in the team, but at the same time I was still like in that mentality that I don't want to put in work. So and I started becoming like insecure kind of with my role. I was like
Hmm.
I didn't know what I was doing, and I was just like I was confused, and I didn't really like follow the rules like too much. Like I used to always be late, things like that. And it was only when I had like a wake up call being like at the end of junior year where like I just saw like all these leaders being like kicked off, and that was just like it just shook. It just had me shook because I feel like those leaders like did more work than me, and they got kicked off, and I was the one who sent the email. So I'm basically like I was like the email sender guy who kicked them off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember
So I
that.
was just like, how the hell am I kicking these people off when I gotta put more work in too? You know?
Yeah.
So
when I made you the one of the apprentices that year, it was so you could see more of the team, right? So you were kind of being able to. I was telling you certain things. You were also working on a project at Mindstorms, at Lego Mindstorms project. So there was a
yeah.
lot of trust that I had with you. If I'm being
Mhm.
honest, were you the greatest model member? No, but you are now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like your
Yeah.
little Cinderella story has been great. That like started from the bottom and then now you're here.
Yeah.
So and who knows where you're gonna be? It's kind of
Yeah.
cool, like the glow up. And
Yeah. Wait, I didn't get to that part, right?
yeah, yeah. Oh, oops.
All right. So wait, I'm gonna talk now, right? All right. So I had this like Lego Mindstorm project that I was working on, and I really tried like my best, but it wasn't like Beaver standards, you know? So going like that was just my junior year. That was just my experience junior year. It was just a little funky as well. So once I became a senior and I got a director role, like one of the highest like leadership roles, I was just like, okay, now I'm in the like in the hard work, super like hands-on type like things. And I remember like one of the first meetings, I remember Dr. French talking about like this NASA grant that like last year's leaders like failed at it and um they just didn't submit it on time and they were just like it was very unorganized and I was just like NASA and I was like what are grants? And then I was like, you know what? Since it has NASA in it, I'm just gonna do it. And also, I was like, this could be like a really cool way for me to like impress Dr. French because like if last year's thing couldn't do it, and then like if I'm in charge and like I make the team do it as well, like and get this grant, I'd be just like I would feel accomplished, right? So I started like taking the lead, and dang, that was just like I didn't know what I did that was like my first time experience what robotics really was because when I was writing these grants, I was
Mhm.
writing like these questions were so like what is it called like deep cutting inside the
Yeah,
team that it really like shed the light on like the prize of robotics, like what it's like the mission, everything,
yeah.
and just like the ethos of the team. And I was just like looking down upon it. I was like, what the hell? Like this is the type of opportunity that I was given. And writing these letters, I was just like even those like hard nights writing those letters, even like messing up on those grant writing essays or letters, I would say
Hmm.
just like the writing process when I was writing it and these like really like deep cutting questions were asked to me and I was just thinking like what is robotics and then like I helped like create our core values of equity opportunity unity and I was
Yes.
just like wow like this is what robotics really is and from that like grant writing was just like a part of like the story and I was just like introduced like for me I was just like kind of late to everything but I feel like finally I got the hang of it
Yeah.
because like being like a director like out of nowhere is like really hard especially when you don't have any leadership like leadership experience in
Experience.
the past
Hmm.
yeah if I don't have that I didn't have that experience and it was just super super difficult for me
Yeah.
so
It
like progressing on
it was a
just like
difficult
made me better
decision for me
yeah
to make you a director, given my experience, like my personal experience with you, like as a student, because you were in physics and you were
yeah
okay. You were an okay student. Um, but every morning, I don't remember if you were ever late to physics, but
yeah
every
I was
morning,
late
okay, every morning you just looked frazzled. Like you look like you don't sleep. You also look like you were 56 years old, like back then, you know?
yeah
So there was like, okay, I don't know what's going on with this kid. And then the fact that you got like kicked out, blacklisted, kind of like banned from the team. And then you lost your apprentice role. And then I'm like, okay, Freddie suggests to make you the Freddie's our executive director. Freddie suggests to make you the competition director, and I'm like, and I value Freddie's opinion, so I noted it down. I was like, okay, I'll put up with a star. I put like a big star next to your name,
Yeah.
because I was like, I don't know about Masrur, and
Mhm.
the decision that really pushed me to choose you was Ryan Sakib. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
do.
he in his year that he graduated when you were a junior, right?
Yeah.
He gave me a gift, and in that gift he wrote me a letter, and he also had a conversation with me. He was like, I know you're terminating all the leaders.
Hmm.
Because he overheard our conversation, that I know you're terminating
Yeah.
all the leaders, and starting fresh. I think you should make Mazor one of those leaders.
Hmm.
And I just looked at him and I was like, Mazor? And then he said, yeah, if you give Mazor the chance, he's going to rise to the opportunity and rise to the occasion. And so I stroked my beard a little bit, like I pull on my little beard
All
hairs.
right. All right.
And
Right.
I was thinking, and I was like, okay. When Ryan said it, that kind of was like, I guess there's something that Freddie and Ryan sees that I do not see about you. So I was like,
Hmm.
okay, let's go with it. And I took that leap of faith, and you really, really filled out the shoes like well, you know? Like
Yeah.
you walked through the these like director shoes, not clunky, like they fit perfectly. And
Yeah.
I think now you're even a stronger director than you were when you were first assigned the role. What do you think about
Yeah.
that?
So that whole like transition of me actually like filling in like these director shoes is like just like what I learned from like everyone else around me, Like I saw like not only from like grant writing, but like seeing like the struggles and just like how like my peers and like the other directors like functioned. It was just like at a point like I need to like get up to that standard. And then once I like started like putting this effort and like seeing the progress in me, like being able to like do robotics and at the same time being like in the top of my classes,
Mm-hmm.
that changed my whole mindset. And like it made me just because I love learning. And this this new like robotics like leadership, like I was just learning even more. It was like starting off like at like what kindergarten in leadership, and
Yeah.
like I was like already like at the top, like in like my studies, like I already had like experience with that, but I never had experience in like leadership. And when I was just like learning both of these things simultaneously, it was overwhelming because I had to like apply to like colleges as well. But it was like every day was motivational. Like being with the Full Metal Beavers, being with everyone else, it's like when I'm challenged, I want to like be like challenged even more. And like Dr. French was like also like you also like really helped me because like you always remembered me like never quit and stuff like that. And also like the animes that I watched, they always say never quit, so I couldn't quit. And then also my friend like MD Anindo, like he was like I remember he was like such a like strong director. And then like he still is a strong director. And I was just like, you know what? Like, what is this? Anindo, like the guy I see in class all the time, that's just like just like me, is like such a good director. That just like gave me such a like a push because like
Yeah.
I also want to like be there too. And also like I remember my other director peer like Sanjita, she was like always she was like she wasn't like the best director, but she was like a really she was way better than me in the beginning.
Yeah.
And she was just like I remember all the initiatives she used to take. She used to just like kind of carry me. Like we created she always used to carry me, and I was like, what? And then once like she like stepped down, I was like, holy crap, like how am I supposed to function like as like a director now? Not fully, but like in corporations. So that's when
Okay.
I started to get like
Mazur, let me
really
interrupt
hands
you. Let me
on.
interrupt you. Let me interrupt you. I need you to
Yeah.
repeat that whole Sanjita part because your phone started like glitching out.
Huh?
It started sounding like so
Bro,
let's
that router.
yeah, let's go back to when you first started talking about Sanjita, you said Sanjita, she was my former director peer, and then continue.
Okay, so Sanjita, she was my former director and also like appeared with me like alongside me. And we also like created like co-operations, which is like it's still continuing today. And when we're always like working together, she used to carry me like all the time. And I felt like it felt easy again. Like I keep going to my like, lazy behavior. But when she like actually stepped down as a director,
Mazur. It's happening
yeah,
again. What's
bro,
going
are
on
you
with your
serious?
router?
Oh my god. It's because my parents came. I mean, my mom came. She's using up the internet.
Seriously?
Well, let me see. Test out my thing.
I like this little story about. Oh, look! There's that guy that was speeding off in your neighborhood, speeding off in my neighborhood.
Hey,
You heard
okay.
it?
Yeah, I heard that. You sure that was my fart? Fire. All right, am I cutting off again?
No, you're not.
All right.
So when you start talking about when you mention cooperations, just mention like what is it, and then continue with it. Because remember, people that are listening are not necessarily like on the team. They don't know the inside stuff.
All right.
Okay.
So 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah.
So I remember in the beginning of my directorship, me and my peer, director peer, Sanjita, we created this thing called cooperations because there's this monthly project that Dr. French created, and basically departments. There's competition engineering, operations, and engineering. Did I say that?
Business.
Oh, business. Okay, I forgot. So there's like 4 departments, and this month it was competition operations to work together. And this was like one of my first biggest tasks. And it was just like a task like gift basket and like a just like a ceremony for like the parents of our team. And co-operations was created. And what co-operation is like a collaboration of competition operations, like I said before. And I remember like all the work that I got, like managing not only my department, but also the operations department. The operations department was huge. Like I think it's still huge, right?
Yeah.
So that combined role was so overwhelming to me, and me seeing like Sanjita like being such a good director and like taking all this like initiative, it really motivated me and also like wanted me to like do the same. That was like another instance of like me and Anindo, like me wanting to be like my peers because they had past experience with like leadership, right? They had like whether if they were not leader or not, like they still had experience as a leader, you know? Like every beaver has like experience as a leader. Some have more, some don't.
Mm-hmm.
But they're eventually gonna get there, hopefully. So after like Sanjito was like demoted, like that whole thing, it just like really like put pressure on me with cooperation, and I had to like take that big role. But I feel like something like I feel like just hanging out with you, Dr. French, and just like being with the Full Metal Beavers even more, like not joining swimming, not doing swimming, like being like around like really smart kids, just like wanted me to be like a smart kid too, because like growing up, like no one ever like called me like smart or things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like wanted to be like smart. I always like wanted to do this. Like even with the SHSAT, like I like failed that even though like I went to tutor. So
yeah,
that was just like I just had like a bad like impression of high school. So now I was just like, wow, this is like actually for me like a time for me to shine, because like for me I feel like I do anything once I had like that motivation, and I feel like that motivation is like a flame inside of me, and I just have to like keep like fueling it. So I'm gonna like this flame is like so big right now. Like I find myself like working, and I actually have to like put a stop to that flame because like I kind of overwork sometimes now.
Yes.
So that's just like the type of person I am now, and like also just like from my experience and like being able to like handle all these responsibilities, it also like came with the price of just like overworking myself. So then I found myself like working on my mental health, and now like I have like a schedule and I have like a balance of what I do. I have like these like weekly schedules, just like a schedule of like my free time and when I could like help
Yeah.
and with like my collaborators. And that like schedule, like having a schedule in your life is what's going to make you like a good director. It's going to make you a good leader when you're organized, when you know what you're doing. For me, like I didn't know what I was doing in the beginning. That's why I was like so messy. But that motivation that I got, that flame inside of me,
Yeah.
just like really made me organized. And just talking to you, Dr. French, like always like bothering the crap out of you. Like always saying like, French, what the hell do I do now? What do I do now? Like me looking back at myself, I was like, I really needed help and you really gave me that help. And now it's like to the point where I could just like pick up a project, create my own initiative. Like this whole grant writing thing that I was talking about earlier, nobody ever helped me. So I was just thinking, you know what? These rising leaders, potential rising leaders, when they are in my spot, I don't want them to like be in the middle of nowhere. So that's
Yeah.
why me and along with my peer Mohammed, the manager of communications under the operations department, we came together and was like, we're such conditioned grant writers that we must pass down our knowledge to our peers. Like
Yeah.
that's like one of our duties. That's like taking initiative. So we're having like these workshops, a workshop tomorrow actually, Wednesday, um
Well,
June
yeah.
16th.
Yeah, at the at the top,
Yeah.
you know,
Wednesday, June
you know,
16th.
yeah, you don't need to mention specific dates, but because this is released in the future. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
you know, when I
Yeah.
sat in on that like initial planning meeting, I was
Yeah.
impressed by what you and Mo were saying, that this was your first taste of professional writing. You know,
Yeah.
the writing that you guys do in school is usually just for schoolwork. You know, you do it for a grade and then that's it. It's over. But the writing that you guys do for the Full Metal Beavers, you guys have gotten $6,000 for it. You
Yeah.
know, and that's just the
Yeah.
grants. When it
Yeah.
comes to the other writing, like any emails or any other like literature you guys have to create, or something to write up, those bring in little trickle donations. You know, anything you guys write for the website, like those blogs, someone likes it, they'll donate $25. You know,
Yeah.
we have a like a t-shirt fundraiser going on for the month of June, and there was stuff that had to be written there, like those core values, the mission statement, the vision statement, those things being written. It will convince people, and that is like, that's like more tangible than a grade in
Yeah.
my sense. And I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest appeal for the Full Metal Beavers. It's like real work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just like personally, what I've found, like in the 5 years that I've been like starting this program, or running this program, is there's a lot of times where students that participate will value the work that they do in the Full Metal Beavers more than they value like other work, and
Yeah. Of course.
I'm starting to see why. And
Mm-hmm.
then at least at the high school, we'll have teachers will try to reach out to certain members through robotics by saying, can you please remind such and such to do their work, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, the members have the team has a high standard in their academics. Like you have to have passed all your classes. You have to maintain a 70 to 80 average in all your classes. Otherwise, you're off the team.
Yeah. And for me, like that whole grant writing experience, once like I was a part of like a team that was able to like, that I led, and like the team like helping me, that we accomplished getting like $6,000 in grant money, that like really like shed the light of like how important like writing is. Like I was never a good writer, and like in the beginning of AP literature, I was like kind of like an 80 student,
Mm-hmm.
but like at the end, like now my grade is like over a 90, you know? And I would say like most of it is because like I started appreciating what like writing is, you know, like all
Yes.
those college applications, like that's what it helped with the most, because in grant writing you show off like your accomplishments, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you reach out to these big companies like Google, NASA, uh and like these huge companies that have money, and you tell them why you deserve that money, and
Yeah.
like why you deserve like these like grants. And personally, like me writing that, like I was like funded like a almost like full scholarship to go to college. You know, it's like 76,000,
Yeah.
and I was like, that's basically grant writing for me.
Yes,
Like I
it
helped the
is.
team, and also I helped myself because I got $76,000 in grant money, scholarship money,
Yeah.
and that's just like it's crazy because once you get statistics and you could calculate and like see tangible work, it's just so motivational, not just to like me, but like say next year when someone fills in the director competition, they're like, dang, Masrur did this, Masrur did that. Uh and he was able to do this, he was able to do that. Like I want to do that too, and also like I'm also capable of doing it, you know?
Yeah.
Also in the beginning of like coming into like this high school, I was like kind of a transfer student and I had like low expectations of like what to do, you know?
Yeah.
And I was just like, dang, I was just so bummed out that I didn't get into the high school that I wanted to get into. So
What high school was that?
I wanted to get into like any specialized high school, you know?
Okay.
But
Okay.
but that I'm so happy I didn't though. So because like I feel like Gateway is like perfect for me, and any high school is. It's just that if you like see what opportunities you have, like and take advantage of it,
Yeah.
you're
Definitely
good.
have to take advantage to any opportunities. Anyone that listening to this podcast, whether you're an adult who knows like young people, or if you're a young person, um, definitely seize whatever opportunities that are coming your way, and you have to make the best of it. Mazur, you mentioned something a few minutes ago about the flame in you is like
Yeah,
getting larger, you know? And I had
yeah,
this thought of that's one of those things you should write down in your little notebook or in your phone, because I know you keep like reminders or notes
yeah,
about things.
yeah,
That's one thing you should write down, you know? And that's a quote that you said. And it's a powerful image that you created, like especially for an interview question, when you get that question of what's your greatest weakness and how do you overcome it, you know, that question. I'm not sure if you've been asked it for like a real job interview, but if and when they do ask you that, this would be a great answer to that question, because you said that one of your weaknesses is you sometimes work too much, like you overwork, like you have such a
yeah,
big flame of work that sometimes you have to put it out just a little bit and realize you need to self-help, you
yeah,
know, and worried about your own mental health, which is good, you know, that shows that you have balance and you have structure and routine. So I kind of just wanted to give that little shout out.
Thank you, thank you.
uh,
Now I know what to say for that question. Thank you.
yeah, it's a cool image you created, because I was thinking about like you being set on fire and how it just
Yeah, yeah,
keeps
yeah, yeah.
getting bigger and bigger. It was a cool image.
Um,
Um, okay, so you know, you being the second director of competition, the competition department is a relatively new department compared to the business and engineering, which has been around since the beginning in
yeah,
2015. But competition is new, and
yeah,
you have definitely transformed the department. You know, you've set really strong expectations. There's some really cool projects that we can't talk about,
yeah,
but that are going on,
yeah,
and I'm really, really impressed. Like the that image that you showed me of like someone's I think it was Ashley's work or Maisha's work, I'm not sure who it was.
actually,
Yeah, that is cool. I'm excited for that project. That this big ecomp project that you guys have been slaving over, i'm
oh
i'm
my
so
god,
excited about that too. But again, we can't talk about it yet because we're not ready to announce anything.
yeah,
But these are
big things
some
coming.
really, really, yeah, big things. This is a really cool
Hello,
project
big
that
things,
are going
bro.
on. The RPG game, I mean, we can talk about that. That's like a public project. So I'm also excited about that. I like that you guys are progressing with the alpha testing, I think you guys are
Yeah,
doing. Yeah.
yeah,
I'm really, really impressed. And then even this year with the amount of work that the strategy division went into to get the team prepared for those FRC events. There was so much
Yeah.
work. I would say, like, compared to last year, it was like tenfold. Like, everyone was prepared. Everyone was over prepared and ready to scout. Everyone was ready to look at matches and take down data, analyze those statistics.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we had a pandemic occur and it shut the whole planet down.
Bro, it always gotta happen to the best of us, But it's like another thing you learn from it,
Yeah.
You can't always like predict what's gonna happen in the future. But what's crazy is like we didn't stop. Like that's how you know robotics isn't just about robotics. Like over quarantine, we're doing work. What robot work can we do over quarantine? Well, we're doing it right now.
Yes. Like that. Oh, you're so passionate about this organization. I'm really happy about that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about now just this astronaut and pilot potential stuff going on. How do you think robotics, Full Metal Beavers, school, Islam, how do you feel like all of that is culminating? All your experiences is making you on that path, like to be an astronaut, or is it not?
I would say like all of these experiences, there's some things that help me be an astronaut, like just reach my dream, and there's always like some things that aren't. So, and it's not necessarily bad if they aren't. It's just like a different pathway that I have, like different aspects to grow in. Because I know like being an astronaut is not the only thing I want to be, Like being an astronaut is just like my career. I want to be like a good human. I want to give back to like, I want to be like a philanthropist, Like I want to help like kids who are like underprivileged or like marginalized,
Yeah.
And like being an astronaut is going to get in the income, and there's probably going to be other ways of getting income, but being in robotics, I feel like was the biggest like help towards that goal, because being an astronaut requires like planning and like a set of goals that you need to reach before you could actually become an astronaut. Like think of it like a spectrum. You're like in one end of the spectrum, and like being an astronaut is like all the way at the end of the spectrum. Before, I just used to look at the end of the spectrum, be like, okay, I'm gonna do that, but not thinking about like the steps between. But like, it's similar to being a director. So say if being a director was being an astronaut, I learned those steps just going through it in like a simulated version. Like, I don't know if you guys get the idea, but say being a director is being an astronaut, and the steps between it is kind of similar to like the steps of being an astronaut. You need to plan, you need to take initiative, you need to reach out to everyone else. Like I really like sometimes I was like kind of like single. I want to like do things like by myself, but that was one of the biggest things like I learned that I cannot do. Like my voice isn't as strong as like everyone else's voice combined. So
Ooh.
So just like learning from that, I still am figuring out my path of being an astronaut, but I know I had the biggest boost to getting a little like further in that spectrum through robotics. And like there's different spectrums in my life. I really like talking about spectrums, but another spectrum is like, again, I said like being a philanthropist, being a good person, like getting away from like a cycle of just like being kind of in like the bottom. So I have like a lot of goals, and not everything is oriented to being an astronaut. Other things are oriented to being just like accomplishing those goals, like being like emerging peacemaker that I call myself. I even have a certificate that I have that says, "Oh, Masrur Chowdhury Emerging Peacemakers," signed by the Rose Castle Foundation. It's just like an accomplishment that makes me want to create just like a better world, because it also connects to like my main goal of being an astronaut. Even though it's like not directly connected, it's like indirectly connected, because like if I get to help like other kids, like they also have like an opportunity to like chase their dreams. Like I have like the opportunity, like growing up in New York City, like who has that opportunity? So like a very like select group of people have it. So me like learning about emerging like
Yeah, it's like
peacemaking.
3 million people. but okay.
Yeah, but out of like 9 billion people in the
I know.
world.
I'm teasing.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So just like thinking about that, like if we just peacemake, there's like millions of like lives, billions of lives that are going to be like saved, and like so many more opportunities that could be given. You know, like lives are always lost. Like even like looking at like this like Black Lives Matter movement, like I saw like since the murder of like George Floyd, there was like 120 more people killed by the police,
Yeah.
and like that's why I think like peacemaking is such a big thing, because those 120 lives, those 120 Black lives, think about how great they could have been, but they were taken away by like a racist policeman or like just a racist. You know, like
Yeah.
it's so like disheartening.
It is. And you're right about the potential for a lot of people in their lives. There is an artist on Instagram. I don't know his name off the top of my head, but he has this campaign that he's been doing where he draws like all these murdered black men and women, and he
Mm-hmm.
spends a certain amount of time coloring them in. Um, his name is Adrian Brandon. You can find his work at adrianbrandon.com. And so what
Okay.
he does, he's a great collection that he's doing right now. He started with George Floyd. He went on to Breonna Taylor, and he's doing all these other black men and women who lost their lives. And he's coloring. What's cool about the collection? Let me get to the collection. I'm here rambling about his art, but I'm not even getting to the
Okay.
punchline. But what's cool
Okay.
about his art is that he only spends the amount of time coloring in minutes for how many years they've been alive. So for George Floyd, he was 46 years old, so he only spent 46 minutes coloring him.
Yeah.
Breonna Taylor was 26 years old. He only spent 26 minutes coloring her. So there are these pieces that are mostly unfinished, and it's
Yeah.
very powerful because
Wow.
the art is showing all these like unfinished lives, like you had just alluded to. So I was just thinking about that artist as you were speaking about that. So if
Wow.
anyone's interested in seeing the work, his name is Adrian Brandon. I found him on Instagram, but he has a website, adrianbrandon.com. Okay. Masrur, is there anything else you want to talk about, chat about? We have a few more minutes before our hour is up.
Let me see what I could chat it up about. Uh,
No
I
is
would
is a
say,
potential answer. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
oh,
Go ahead.
right. I would say like, this like thing of just like trying to like be like someone. So like, say like if you're like being like a rising leader, like don't try to like be like someone. Because like I always try to like be like someone in like my family, and it's like you can't be someone else. You know what I mean? So like even like to like personally to like my robotics members and my future like peers, when I'm like even an alumni, don't like
Mhm.
try to be like a previous leader. Try to be like your own person. Try to take your own initiatives. But yeah,
Yeah, that's
I
great
think I'm done.
advice. That's thanks, thanks. That's great advice, Mazur. I really sometimes overuse this by saying like, "Oh, I see a lot of myself in you," but with you, I definitely see a lot of myself in you, and especially some of your experiences. Like we share a lot of similar experiences. I'm not Muslim. That's the only thing that we don't
Yeah,
have in common. And also, my hair
yeah.
isn't as messy.
It's
Um,
gonna be like yours one day, okay? It's your
okay.
fancy hair person.
Okay. Uh, but yeah, no. So I'm so glad that you're like a driven person, like super motivated, and you brag about it. I like that you are very vocal about motivating other people, motivating yourself, and kind of wanting to enrich other people's lives too. And
Mhm.
you being wanting to be a philanthropist, you know.
Yeah,
Um, I can't even spell that word. That's such a large word, but that's amazing that you want to be that. That's cool.
yeah.
So I want to thank the listeners for tuning in to episode 7 of the Full Metal Beavers podcast, listening to Masrur chat it up about, I don't even know what he was talking about, but it'll be in the description. So
Yeah.
thank you. And we'll catch you next time for episode 8. Say bye, Masrur.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Assalamualaikum.
Okay, bye.